Hope you all are doing well. This is the Land of Enlightenment podcast, and I am your host, Oscar Duran. This episode of Land of Enlightenment is brought to you by Zendo. Zendo is a local coffee shop here in Albuquerque. You can check them out at zendocoffee.com. You can buy whole beans for order via email. You do have to have a grinder for grinding them up yourselves, or if you just want to support a local business, make sure to go to zendocoffee.com, buy some swag as well. You will get a ton of really great quality coffee, as well as awesome and really, really sweet merch. This episode is also brought to you by Lavender and Lee. Lavender and Lee is a custom jewelry shop. You can find them on Etsy, etsy.com/shop/lavender, A-N-D, Lee, Lee. So check them out. I think you can get a promo discount of 10% if you type in podcast 10 at the end of or when you're checking out. I hope you all enjoy and let me know what you think. Remember that I love you and that there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. Bye. Welcome to my podcast.
Happy to be here.
How
long have you been doing this?
You know what? I've been doing a podcast for, I want to say, since my first semester in grad school, 5 years. 5 years. Cool. So steadily just got over 100 episodes earlier this year or late last year. And yeah, just rocking and rolling, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Do you want to introduce yourself really quickly? Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. My name's Alyse Daunis, and let's see, I currently live in Anchorage, Alaska, originally from Albuquerque, and I am an entrepreneur and a software designer.
That's a lot of really cool stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, hence why I reached out. I mean, I think a big part of I've been doing a lot more episodes, honestly, because I'm kind of isolated, and it's an opportunity for me to reach out to people. But it's also, I think, it gives some people something to listen to, and it's when you're producing content and all that stuff, I think this is a good time as any to do that. So why not, right? And yeah, and you'd been somebody that we met back in college, and I'd seen, obviously via social media, do a ton of really cool stuff. So but I never knew when you would be in town, because I don't think, you're active on there, but I don't think you're too kind of, too active, right? You're not telling people what you're doing every second of the day.
No, I go through like spurts. I feel like I mostly post cool things that I do in Alaska, but outside of that, I'm like,
so just the really cool stuff.
Silent.
Yeah, just the really cool stuff. Hence why I reached out. I was like, wow, her life is only cool things.
That's not true, but
social
media can do that for you.
You must be in branding or something.
Right, yeah.
But that's a big thing. So just going back a little bit, I remember meeting you in a production class, Michael Kamen's class, right? And you crushed that class. I remember everyone in that class was jealous, Taylor especially. He was just like, damn, like you probably did the best film of that semester. And then you just disappeared.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
You just disappeared. So what? I saw you for one semester. You were super quiet. I feel like you're a very shy person from what I had known you at that point. And then you were just gone. Where did you go? What happened?
Oh my gosh, so much has happened since then. I got accepted into NYU's film school.
Nice.
So that's why I left UNM. Went to film school at Tisch, and they have you start in the summer. So I spent the summer in New York doing 16mm film, which was really awesome.
Yeah.
But by the end of the summer, I don't know, I had this like revelation of not wanting to do filmmaking anymore. I think part of it was not really liking how the entertainment industry treats women.
Yeah.
Especially like female directors.
Yeah,
it was just a bit hard being a female director. I felt like in New Mexico, it was a lot more open and inclusive, and in New York, that really wasn't the case.
Yeah, same in LA. LA is the same way. I was just talking. Do you remember Gabe Chavez? Did you ever meet him?
I think I did. I don't
Okay. He's in New
Yeah,
York
I know
now,
that.
actually. He's in New York now, actually. He lived in LA for a little bit. And I interviewed him, and he was talking. We were talking about how this is the industry. People use each other.
Yeah,
And the only conversations you're really having is you start realizing that people are just trying to figure out how they can use you as a connection, or to leverage themselves, which is
hmm
unfortunate. And it's like that for men even, but it must be even worse for women. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of stuff come out now.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I just saw an ugly side to it and didn't
yeah,
want to like. While I loved it, and
yeah. You were
I
talented.
really miss it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I definitely do miss it. It was really fun, but I didn't want that to be my kind of career path. So
yeah.
I I left New York. I was dating somebody in Utah at the time, so I moved to
Hmm.
Utah for a year, which was interesting,
Where,
to say
where
the
in Utah?
least.
No, where in Utah? Utah's like a so Utah's one of those states where like unless you go there, you don't really understand Utah. But it's also one of the most beautiful states I've ever been in.
It is very beautiful. I was in Ogden, Utah, so an hour
Okay.
north of Salt Lake.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty small, like small city town more so. But I was really just trying, like, I was took a year off of school. I was trying to figure out
Mm.
what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And I, after that, after about a year there, I moved to Colorado where my sister was living. So I moved to Denver and went to school, back to school at Regis University for Peace and Justice. So
Cool. What is? I
kind
mean,
of
what
a
is it?
weird name, but yeah.
What do you do with a degree like that? I mean, awesome, awesome stuff. I hope.
No, it was really amazing, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was all about social activism and learning about social movements in the past and how do you create a social movement.
Mm.
Uh, so super like intellectually interesting.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and that's kind of what I during my time in Utah. I was like, I just want to do something that's beneficial to the world. I don't know what that is, but
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
path
Yeah.
I want to go on. And so, peace and justice really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff, especially like we studied a bit of international development and
Mm.
um, designing and building things for the extreme poor around the world. And yeah,
Did you get to
I
use
loved
it
it. And
immediately after your undergrad?
so that was a little hard. Like most liberal arts degrees,
Yeah.
it's pretty,
Yeah.
it was like, what do I do with this? And most people end up going into the nonprofit sector. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, I was in the nonprofit sector, but when I graduated, I ended up moving to Uganda for 6 months.
One of those
Um,
highlights I saw.
yes, one of the highlights. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was. I look back at my time in Uganda as one of the best times of my life by far.
What about it?
Um, I just loved I loved the culture. The people are extremely warm and welcoming there.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't really know how to explain it, but it was just this different way of life. Things are much slower.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of need there.
Hmm.
So that was eye opening, and it actually ended up turning me off a bit from nonprofit stuff because I found that oftentimes it would lead to more bad than good. I mean, good intentions are great, but um,
To hell with good intentions.
it oftentimes puts
Yeah.
people out of work or whatever. So I learned a lot
Right.
about that while I was there, and that's kind of what. By the end of my time, I
Yeah.
ended up starting a small business with a local friend of mine. So
While you were
that's kind of
there?
what I got. Yeah, like with the very end of my time.
Oh.
So when I was there, I was actually helping a women's start a nonprofit helping teen mothers. So that's a really
Mm.
big issue there is,
Hmm.
13-year-olds are getting pregnant oftentimes without consent and
Hmm.
a lot of issues
Yeah.
medically and just
Yeah. Yeah.
mentally. But
Just a lack of access to resources and yeah.
right, right. So that's primarily what I did when I was there. And then at the end of my time, I wanted to approach doing something beneficial in a for-profit business manner.
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
was kind of my first foray into a social business. So my friend Hashim and I were distributing solar lamps and clean cook stoves
So just more
to
of a
rural areas.
like connecting distribution mostly, or none of the production?
Right now, we would buy from local suppliers. Well, we had a supplier in Kenya, and then of cook stoves, oh, sorry, solar lamps, and then cook stoves were in Uganda.
Mm.
But they were primarily only being sold in really urban areas. So,
Oh, okay.
and where a lot of the issues that come along with cooking over an open fire, that's really rural. So we were
Mm-hmm.
getting them to the people in really rural areas. Um, but anyways, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I guess Uganda was really great because it just taught me a lot, and I still stay in close contact with a lot of my friends there, and I've been back many times. But.
Okay, so you do, I mean, minus the world pandemic, and the quarantine, but you
Yeah,
try
it'll
to
be.
get back often.
I try to. Yeah, it's been a few years. I went again the next summer. So I
Mhm.
guess that was in 2013. I went again in 2014. And then when I was getting my MBA in Colorado, I spent a summer doing research in Uganda as well.
Okay, okay. So you came back and then to the US and started doing your MBA then?
I
Immediately?
did.
Okay.
Not immediately. So it took a year and a half of running that small business
Yeah.
to realize that I don't have any business acumen.
That's a hard thing to get though. I mean, that's something that you build up over time,
Oh
right?
my gosh, I made so many mistakes. Yeah, it
I
was
mean,
just
running a business, you're gonna mess up. That's where consultants come
true.
from. Consultants come from like doing it, messing up, and then everyone else wants to take the shortcut, so they hire a consultant who's done it and messed up a
Right,
ton of
right.
times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we should have hired a consultant, but
you didn't.
no, I made that mistake too. But yeah, I just I just realized I needed to learn a lot more to actually run a successful company. So
Mm,
I
mm,
went to Colorado State University to get my MBA, but it was focused specifically on social and sustainable enterprises. So
yeah.
basically anything environmental or social. And it was so awesome. About 50% of there was only like 32 of us or so in the class, and
Hmm.
50% of them were from outside of the US. So
Okay, so
very
you got
international
a
group.
global view and discussion on a
Right.
regular, right? It wasn't just
Yeah.
kind of US centric, which tends to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really an amazing time. It was a year and a half program. And at the kind of during the program, you actually form a team and go through the process of like starting a business together.
Hmm.
Um, Most of the teams didn't end up actually doing anything with it after graduating,
Kind of like a
unfortunately.
business plan. You build out a
Mhm.
business plan. Okay.
Right. And so, as part of that, everybody during our last summer spent time mostly outside of the US doing like user
Hmm.
research, so figuring out if this business idea is viable. And
Mm.
ours was, well, we went out to see if rural micro entrepreneurs in East Africa could benefit from um, either a generator or a solar powered unit that would help them expand their business essentially.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we went there thinking that generators were cheaper and more effective at helping people start and launch tiny businesses in really out of reach areas, off
Yeah.
grid areas, but found that generators were not, they're actually quite against them, which is great, right, from an environmental perspective.
Hmm.
And
What is it, just
so
like not sustainable having them,
it was
or
really hard if I can remember correctly, it was really hard to get the diesel for it. So they would
yeah.
have to travel to get that, which it ended up
Okay.
just being too much work to make it
Hmm.
viable.
Hmm.
So then we came up with this idea of having kind of a business in a box, including a solar battery, like a solar panel and a battery,
Yeah.
um, which I think actually a friend of mine who was in that group with me sent me a link that a company is trying to do that. So that's pretty cool. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was pretty excited about it, but it was really cool because we just went to Hashim, actually, who I'd started that previous business with, was kind of our guide. And so we went out to, I think we interviewed around 100 micro entrepreneurs, and most of them have like their mom and pop shops. Some of them are barbers. It was like mom and pop shops, barber shops, and video halls were the three main businesses. So, so they would, yeah, it's the video hall I found interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's just if in most countries, not I wouldn't say highly developed. Was it global north? What's the term now? It's always changing. It's always changing. But global southern countries, they tend to have a lot of, really highly based on the gig economies, right? And it's just it's a lot of gigs, just side hustle. It's pretty much just a side hustle all the time. So anything that they can kind of figure out or do to make money, they're going to do it. Right.
Right. Exactly. And obviously, I mean, people get bored anywhere, and so video is a form of entertainment. And I mean, look at right now with the virus.
If people get bored and then ask people in Anchorage, Alaska for an interview, that's weird.
Right.
No. Yeah, it makes sense, right? People and you want to do something that makes you feel good. And sometimes going and working in a factory, which is the only option for a lot of people in these countries, is not something that it's not very fulfilling, working on a line and just putting something together. So that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's actually not many like factory jobs and stuff in Uganda in particular.
Okay.
So you really do have to, if you're in a really far out area, you're pretty much a smallholder farmer, or you run one of these mom and pop shops and so forth. But the hard part is that there's so many of them. So like I think imagine you're in a small community and you see the few successful, so people who are making it okay money in your community have these like mom and pop shops. You're like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. But then there's 10 mom and pop shops for a population of like 30 people, and so then all of their profits start decreasing. And so one of the things that we were thinking about is with this like business in a box, saying what are some kind of outside the box business ideas that they could potentially start. So we thought of actually like some communities had like a popcorn vendor, so they would like have popcorn that, I don't know, it seemed to actually be quite successful if they had like one in the community. I'm trying to think of some others. There was a lot of like seamstresses who needed power, a lot of different like farming type technologies, so you could basically, beyond just growing a small amount of vegetables, you could expand that by having access to electricity. But anyways, it was a really great project, and I was a bit bummed that it didn't turn into a business, but I was the only one who was really out of my group wanting to pursue that, and didn't want to do it on my own. So
I mean, it's very rarely, does it turn into anything. But this whole thing that I'm doing now, and any production that I've done since undergrad, I've gone to grad school for something completely different, but all of this came from a business plan I did for a final project my last semester at UNM.
Really?
So just the idea, even the name, my business license and all that, it's just, it came out of it, right? But I'm the only one out of I don't know how many. So it's I think it's important it's probably something that you were very passionate about. I'm assuming. Am I wrong?
I was, yeah. Still am.
Good. So so after your MBA, what'd you do? Right. Yeah. There was some time after that. When did you finish your MBA?
2017. Well, I guess the winter of 2016.
Okay.
So so I guess during my MBA, my job was helping run the startup accelerator for, I'm not sure if you know what that means, but basically an accelerator is a short program that helps
Yeah, we have some here.
startups. Yeah, okay. So I was helping run the student accelerator at the university, and that's it was super fun. And when I got out, I was applying for jobs primarily at accelerators either in Colorado or looking at moving back to East Africa, and wasn't really having too much luck. There's a couple in Colorado, but yeah, it's pretty hard to get into them, competitive positions. And then totally out of nowhere, a woman who was an alumni of my MBA program, we have like a Facebook group, posted a position to run an accelerator in Anchorage.
Oh.
So I was like, Alaska. Isn't it like, it seems pretty cold there? I don't know.
Alaska.
I had honestly never thought of coming to Alaska, or I don't know.
It's been so on my radar in the past year. Like Alaska.
Really?
I went to Iceland last year. And then I was just like, I couldn't get enough of this super northern climate. And I was like,
yeah.
Yes.
I saw those photos and I was like, was he in Alaska? But then I saw that it was Iceland. It looks pretty similar.
Yeah, exactly that. So I mean, I wish, and I have a coworker that is from up there and from Anchorage actually, and she's just like, of course you want to go up there. She's like, you know, you all always want to go up there for like the Northern Lights and all this and that. I'm like, I genuinely enjoy that climate. It's
amazing. Yeah.
I mean, okay, how do you handle I went midsummer, which is it was my brain was a little fried. I'm not gonna, because it was June 22nd that I went.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, the sun doesn't go down, right? How do you handle that? How do you?
You get very tired. I remember my first summer here, I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many outdoor activities to do, and there's so much daylight, and everybody hikes after work because why not? It's not going to get dark. So just every day I was doing something, and come August, so even like just 2 months of that, come August, everybody's, I would just start binge watching Netflix for like a day because I needed to recover from from the like amount of activity and light that I was exposed to all the time. So you get very little sleep and get a lot of exercise, but
the sun's very misleading because you'll look at your watch and you're like, oh, it's like maybe like 6 and it's 10 p.m. You're like, what?
Right. Even right now, so it changes so quickly, which is really cool. So right now, I think it's been getting dark after 9.
Okay, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, but it's hard to like wind down. Like it's weird eating dinner when it's just like really bright outside. It looks like it's 3 in the afternoon or something. But it's pretty funny. You see people like walking their dogs at midnight in the middle of the summer, and like it's just kind of weird.
It doesn't surprise me because it's daylight. There's daylight outside. It's the midnight sun, and it's trippy. It's trippy.
It is.
So there's the other end to that, right? How's the winter?
Winter can be tough, but honestly, it goes by pretty fast in the sense of, at least the darkness does. So I would say December is the darkest month, and in Anchorage, sun comes up at like 10:30, 10:45, goes down around 2:30.
Okay.
So not a ton, but if you have a flexible job, which I've always had, it's pretty sunny within that 5 hours or whatever. So if you can get outside for lunch, or like I would always go on a run or a ski, then it's really
or just a quick ski.
Yeah, that's what's great about Anchorage. There's a trail system throughout the whole city, and I've always lived right by it.
It's like cross-country skiing. It's like
cross-country skiing.
I was going to be like, wow, you just went just
go on the slopes. Yeah, no, that would be cool.
Shred some gnar, man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'd be something. But
That'd be something. That'd be something. That'd be
That would
something.
be interesting.
I thought, I
Yeah.
thought about once my kids are a little older, if I have nothing going on here, and I don't end up in the Pacific Northwest, just using what I've learned, the business acumen I've acquired in the public relations world, and
Hmm.
just using it to kind of help out some organization up in Alaska. That way, you can just be outside all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm living vicariously through you, Alyse.
I think you should come up here. I think it's
Yeah.
the best place in the world to live, to be honest.
So, I mean, it wasn't somewhere that you had pictured yourself. All of a
No.
sudden, you're an advocate for Alaska, you'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. So when I had it all happened very quickly when I was in Colorado.
Yeah.
I it took me like a week or so to like convince myself that I should apply,
Okay.
because honestly, I was just like, wow, that seems really cold and not fun. But
It's a big move.
yeah,
It's a big
it is
move.
a big move. So I was nervous about it, but then yeah, I had one phone call and got a job offer and moved there about 2.5 weeks later. So it happened
Mm.
fast, and I got here during April of 2017, which is breakup season. We're about to go into it now, which just means all of the snow is melting and it's dirty and
Oh,
trash everywhere.
I was like, what?
But however, I thought it was really cool because I was like, oh my god, this is the most snow I've ever seen, and I was just amazed at how fast it all melted. It
Yeah.
was just really cool to watch that change, and then trees here bloom in like a matter of 2 days. Like it's just crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's just a different climate, like I said, right?
right.
So that's insane.
And you get so much sunlight all at once that like plants, and so if you grow a garden here, well, not everything can grow here, but the things that can grow very, very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, and then I ended up in Anchorage running the program for an accelerator. It was kind of a startup in and of itself. It had kind of had one pilot summer before I joined.
Hmm.
So had to really create the program from the ground up, which was super fun, really rewarding. It got me to know a lot of people in the community very quickly. So I think
Yeah.
that's also what has helped me. I just love Alaska so much, is because I have a really strong network and community here.
So you created
But
that
people,
foundation. Yeah.
right? Yeah, exactly. Um, and it's so easy to make friends here if you like to do things outside.
Yeah.
I think the majority of my friends were, some hiking thing, and then they invited me to a cabin, and then you just kind of start doing lots of fun things together. But
Hmm.
um,
I mean, people who go to Alaska are either really into outdoors or running from something, right?
yeah, there's like this. It's interesting. Yeah, either you're like really liberal and super into the outdoors and the environment, or you are the complete opposite. But I don't feel like being in Anchorage, I don't feel like I come across the complete opposite that often.
I
But
mean, who was
occasionally,
you
a little
remember who the governor was?
oh God, don't remind me.
I mean, you can see Alaska
Yeah,
from your front. I mean, Russia from your front door, right?
right. Yeah. But yeah, it's a kind of a polarizing
Yeah.
place, but but I think Anchorage, you don't feel it as much. Go outside of Anchorage and life is different. I mean, we were talking about like daylight and darkness, and
Hmm.
this last winter I was in Fairbanks a lot, and that's hard because it's sun is up for maybe 2 hours, and it's
Hmm.
negative. When I was there, it got to negative 40,
Okay.
and
Fahrenheit.
it's
Fahrenheit.
rough. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
very
that's
chilly.
yeah.
So, and the community
What were
there
you
is
doing out
wonderful.
there?
My boyfriend's from Fairbanks,
Oh,
so
okay.
him and I actually I've lived a lot of places since we last met and spoke to one another, but I lived in Seattle last year, and
So wait,
oh god,
So you left Alaska, went to Seattle.
right. So I
Okay.
ended up okay. My boyfriend, his name was Eric. He joined the accelerator that I
Oh,
was running.
Okay.
for his company.
You're just poaching your
And
clients, huh?
totally, yeah.
You're like, oh,
Yeah, right.
who are you? Do you need my
Yeah.
help?
Yeah, it was a little weird because I was like his advisor slash like definitely not his boss, but there was a little like weirdness. But
You were his consultant.
right, right. Uh and at the so yeah, the program was a couple months, and at the end of the program,
Hmm.
a little bit after, we started dating, and I ended up joining his company because
Oh,
um yeah, just during the accelerator, I mean, it's awesome helping entrepreneurs, but it's so much, well, more stressful, but more exhilarating being in one yourself. Um,
yeah. And then you trying to motivate people. Trying to
mhm.
and then some people are just so disorganized. Not everyone's meant to have a business or to is not built the same way. It requires a certain way of thinking.
Right.
So that could I can imagine it being very exhausting, right?
It is very exhausting, yeah, but so worth it.
And then so you moved to why'd you move to Seattle then?
Well, it's quite hard to run a startup in Alaska.
Oh,
Who would have
really?
thought, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the company is used AI in the advertising industry. I can, if you want, go into it, but it was a type of product that
Hmm.
was really like there's no customers in Alaska, so that was one
Yeah.
thing. And then investors are few and far between here, um, and we needed to raise a lot of money in
Yeah.
order to run the business. So we actually got accepted into an accelerator in Seattle, so that's what originally brought us there.
Mm. Hmm.
And we thought that we were going to be there for the few months that the accelerator was going on, but then found that I think like every month we'd be like, okay, we're going to stay a little bit longer. I'm like, yeah, okay, it makes sense right now. And then that just kept happening. So a
Yeah.
year later,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
why am I still in Seattle? I
Yeah.
want to be in Alaska, but
You're not a fan of the rain in Seattle?
no, I find Seattle winters much harder than Alaska winters.
They're different for sure. It's so
Yeah,
wet.
it's very wet and gray, and
Yeah. Then that
it's
rain
hard to go
is cold.
outside.
That rain is like super cold. Those drops are huge and it's just yeah. So it's very
Yeah,
different. I feel like Alaska's a
yeah,
little I mean it snows, but it's drier in a sense, right?
it is. It's quite dry, and like, yeah, I guess I felt like there was a lot more winter activities to do in Alaska. So
Hmm.
if you don't like being outside, like if you don't like skiing or fat biking or winter hiking,
If you're a
then
boring person, then go to see.
or just like then don't live in Alaska because it would be terrible in the winter. But if you do like doing those things, it's awesome. And in Seattle, because I think it might have been different if I had a car. So we never brought a car down or anything
Yeah,
because we kept thinking we're gonna leave, and then
yeah, wouldn't be worth it. And
so I
then
was kind of like,
parking
I
there's so
miss
expensive anyways, and it's a nightmare to find a parking space in Seattle.
it
Just
is.
it never. I mean, I always rent a car when I'm out there because I have to get around, and an
Mm-hmm.
Uber or Lyft is just super expensive. But yeah, it's not worth it,
No,
especially if you're there for only a short period of time.
right, and it even to Seattle, it's like a 50-hour drive from Fairbanks where our cars
Yeah, I
were.
mean, I wouldn't
Um,
drive it.
yeah, it's like we didn't really want to go through that, but
It's a long drive. So people don't realize that because I at one point thought I wanted to drive up there,
hmm
and I mean just to Seattle is about 2.5 days from here, on my own. Right, I could do it probably in one day. It's 24 hours, but I'd go insane. And then going up to
hmm
Alaska is even more crazy. It's just so far. Alaska's such a large state.
it is, yeah.
It's massive, right?
hmm
And have you been able to travel the whole state? I mean, or it's kind of
Oh gosh,
difficult,
not the whole state.
right?
Yeah, I've traveled quite a bit throughout the state, but still so much more to see. I Yeah, I've been to Fairbanks. I've been to Southeast a bit, so mostly Juneau.
Hmm.
Um, I mostly in the summer, a lot of people travel like within maybe 3 hours of Anchorage. So I go to Talkeetna often, which is like 2 hours north.
Hmm.
Seward, which is a big port, not big, but one of the major ports here. has a lot of great like sea kayaking, and then Homer. Yeah, so I guess which if you look at a map, those are all pretty like if you
They're close
compare it to the
together.
rest of Alaska, it's
Yeah,
like
pretty close
it's.
together.
I mean, I drive 3 hours to get there, or 5 hours to get to Homer, but
There's
there's
still
still so
so
much
much
more,
more. Yeah.
right? Yeah, and so it's weird because and then Fairbanks is like a 7 hour drive, and so I've been around, and I've also been some rural communities, but so it's okay amount, but it's kind of funny. Like the drive from Denver to Albuquerque is 6 hours, and I used to think that was such a big drive. Like, oh, traveling all this way to go back home.
That's not that. It's
But
not that bad. Yeah, 6 hours is
it's
not that
really,
bad.
but
I do it often actually to Denver.
do
Yeah,
you? Yeah,
it's nothing.
and but being in Alaska because it's such a big state, people make that long of a drive like for a weekend trip, like
Yeah,
just like all the
yeah,
time. I don't know, because you it doesn't it's weird how it doesn't feel the same because you're staying within the same state, so you're like, oh, I'm just going
yeah,
there
yeah.
for the
It's I mean
weekend.
it's the same thing. I mean, in the U.S. we'll
Yeah.
travel super far. At least on the west end of the country, travel super far. We'll drive for hours, and you're still in the same state, or I mean, we're still in the same whatever. And then on the East Coast, you drive 30 minutes, and you've already gone through 3 states,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And
just crazy.
it just depends. It's just relative. It's all relative to where you're at.
Right.
So are you being? I mean, what is successful? Or do you feel like you're successful in after post Seattle in Anchorage?
Well, I ended up leaving that company.
Oh,
Um, so my boyfriend is still running it, but I just wasn't super passionate about the advertising industry,
yeah,
and
yeah.
but and it's hard working with your partner. It really is.
I
And
mean,
it's not just, it's like there's even a difference between like just working with somebody and being a co-founder with somebody, because like I was saying earlier, it can be super stressful to
uh-huh.
run a company. And when I was thinking about joining it with him, I was like, oh, that's good, like we'll have the ups and the downs together. But
The
sometimes it's
ideal that
nice to like
yeah,
not have that, or to have somebody, like I
it's
could never
yeah.
talk about my frustrations.
Yeah,
With
yeah. I mean, it's like it's yeah. You can't. It's good to have those boundaries, right? That's
totally.
why working from home for me is really weird because
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to separate my work in my home. So I like having an office. So it's just those boundaries in whatever form. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So dating somebody that you're working with is, I would say, from experience, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah. From
Well,
experience, when have you worked with
a partner.
a partner? Yeah.
I think I've worked with people and then they've become my partner.
Uh,
That's kind of how
nice.
it goes because I love to shit where I eat.
Right.
I'm a very romantic guy. So I tend to be just like, if I vibe with somebody very easily and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, hey, who are you? Right.
Right.
And I think in grad school when I was a TA, that happened. I'm a couple of people in my cohort and, I've luckily salvaged the friendships, but it was just not a good idea because you're so
Yeah.
stressed out in grad school anyway. And then you're working together because I was teaching and
Yeah.
it was not good because you're spending
Mm-hmm.
so much time together and that time apart is healthy and you like the saying goes, distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
great distance but just some time away, right, to be able to kind of come back and be like, okay, hey, this is my day, this is what I did, what do you think, yada yada yada. So yeah, like you said, you can't vent because
Right.
they were there for the whole thing.
I know, right? Like, there's no like, what happened to you today? It's like, I know everything that happened to you
Yeah, you're also my coworker that I want to
today.
complain about.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you did the craziest thing today.
Right. I
No,
was actually really lucky because, so yeah, we were in Seattle, which made it harder too because we don't have a lot of friends there. So it was even more so just like him and I. And but Brittany, do you remember Brittany Gallego? She was also in our
yeah,
call.
yeah, I remember Brittany.
Yeah.
I love Brittany. She's awesome.
Yeah. So Brittany and I are still close, and
Cool.
she's a flight attendant now, and she
Yeah.
gave me her buddy pass last year.
Nice.
So I got to fly for free or mostly free throughout the US. So that helped my relationship and everything last year a lot because
I could
yeah, like you
get
said, like
away.
absolutely yeah, right. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to Hawaii with Brittany for the weekend, or I'm gonna go see my parents. And
Mm,
so I traveled mostly to hang out with friends, but went
yeah.
to my sister had a baby last year, so I went and saw her multiple times, and
Hmm.
that was just really nice. I would say I traveled at least 2 times a month to just kind of get away for a bit. But yeah.
Sorry, sorry, that was a poorly placed laugh. That was I need to work on my timing. Yeah, to get out, get me out. Just kidding.
No,
No,
get me out of Seattle. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Seattle. Yeah, I like Seattle when it's warm, or not when it's warm, but when it's sunny. Right. I love
Yeah,
the
the summer is great.
I love the winter sun. I can't stand the sun in the summer.
Oh, really?
I mean, at least down here, it's suffocating, right?
That's true.
I think it's a lot. Where it's like if I start heading further north, I mean Iceland, for example, like the sun out
Mhm.
there, it's just so pleasant. It's like, hey, friend.
Yeah.
Versus here, it's like, hey, that annoy. Like, I'm like, I need some distance, right? I need some
Right.
distance. I see you all the time. I get it. You're here.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I try to get out as much as possible too. I had a couple of trips planned for these couple of months, and now we can't
Hmm.
go anywhere because of
Yeah.
but that's awesome that Brittany gave you that. That's really good. I mean, in
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing super well out now.
I am. I'm very happy. Yeah, like basically to kind of wrap my little travel story up. Eric and I ended up, well, I was kind of like sick of Seattle, and I was like, you know what? If we're gonna make this company happen, then we need to move to LA because that's where advertise. Basically, LA or New
Hmm.
York. So we were gonna move to
Yeah,
one of the two,
yeah.
and so, but all of our stuff was in Fairbanks. Poor Eric's parents have all of
Hmm.
my things. I had all of my things, but so we went to Fairbanks, and our plan was to like get everything together and then drive to one of the two,
Yeah.
and that was I think in November, December, but then there was some like financial stuff with the company. Basically, it's just hard to raise money at that time, and I was getting nervous to
Hmm.
move to one of the most expensive cities in the U.S.
Right.
Uh,
That's the
and
thing.
then
Yeah.
around that time is when I decided to kind of step away from the company. So I
Okay.
was like, well, I'm moving back to Anchorage. That's where I'm happiest. That's where I want to be. And um, so I was chief product officer with Atently was the name of the company.
Hmm.
And I got into software design, and so I ended up now I'm working with another startup as their product manager and software designer, and then so doing that part time, and now I'm starting a new company too, so
Oh,
I can't not do it, I guess, but
it's
but
it sounds like that's just who you are. It's just who you are.
yeah,
That's fine, and you're an
it is.
entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
That's the true in the truest sense of the word. You are,
Yeah.
which is a good. It's I think that's a great thing. I think that's a very good thing. You seem very happy, like I said, and do you see yourself long term just being an Alaskan then, being in Anchorage?
Well, it's hard to say. I consider Alaska my home, probably more so than New Mexico. I mean, God, I haven't lived in New Mexico in a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
most of my family's gone, just my mom is there now. But
Hmm.
yeah, I would always like to have a home base here. I
Yeah,
don't know if I want
yeah,
to like physically be here forever.
yeah.
I would love to move back to maybe not even East Africa, but to Africa for a bit again. Um, and I don't know. I really like experiencing new people, new cultures. So it's
So you'd
hard for me
really
to
like you
say
don't
that
have
I'll
a
stay
yeah.
anywhere
You don't have a
for
plan,
my
right? You don't have a
right. No,
plan. You're
not
just
really.
kind of no, no, really. You're just kind of gonna experience life and see where it takes you.
Sure, and especially again, like now I'm starting another company, and
Yeah.
again, know that it's hard to do that in Alaska. So that might pull me away.
Did you mention what the company is?
No, it's called Step Away.
Okay.
It's a mobile app helping people recover from first alcohol addiction, and then we'll expand to other addictions.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
it's
cool.
exciting. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the idea kind of end of last year, and I was just really surprised. I guess it's kind of on a personal note, but I have a close family member who's an addict, and I was looking into, it's just been going on for a long time, and trying to think of ways for not only him but for others to quit. And I think AA is becoming less and less of an option for especially millennials. And especially right now with the coronavirus, like you can't even go to an AA meeting.
Yeah, no, I know. I know a lot of people in that community, and they've been having a hard time.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And I think young people are, I guess I include us in the young people category.
We're still young.
Right.
Right. I was thinking back, I was like, when did I meet her? And I'm like, that was like 11 or 12 years ago.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Over a decade since I've seen you.
Oh God.
Yeah, it goes by quickly. It feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I've had a son since then, and kids since then, and he's turning 11 this year.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
But that tells you something, right? That's how long. So we're still young.
What's your? Is a boy?
Yeah, son and daughter. So Noah and Addison.
Son and daughter.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Addison is 8, turning 9. Yeah, so I mean, halfway there. They're almost out of the house. Have to get jobs, pay some bills. Hell yeah.
At least you're gonna be one of those like young, like you've already had the kid through high school and you're ready and free and you're like in your 40s.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be hitting like I'm gonna be hitting my 9 years. I'll be hitting like 40, 41, and Addison's gonna be in college. And
oh my gosh,
I'll be
yeah,
out
you
of.
did it
I'll
right.
be out. I'll be at it. I mean, thanks. I appreciate that. I don't know if I did it right, but I did it. And you know, there's pros and cons, right? I got to do it, and I love it, and it was difficult, but I'll be done pretty early, and then I'll get to enjoy my money and do stuff with it, and then live somewhere else, right? Because I have a whole second life after that. So, but yeah, that's cool. If you like a difficult life, go for it. Right. Have kids young.
Sure. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it at all, because I get to I have the energy to keep up with them and do stuff with them. I take them hiking. I take them climbing. They're into traveling, so they're my little adventure buddies. Yeah. So so it's everything that I'm into. So yeah, it's quite a life. But anyways, us millennials, you were saying.
Yeah, us millennials. No, just that. I mean, we're and the generation behind us is just so attached to having everything at their fingertips. And so if you're trying to quit an addiction, it's already hard enough, and then making it.
We want instant gratification. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So something that you can pull up immediately when you're having a craving, for instance, can be super helpful. So the app is primarily focused on helping people overcome those strong cravings, so giving them different techniques, as well as there's a social component, of course, and then there's a kind of daily, I don't know if you want to call them lessons, but basically helping you change your behaviors or giving you some tips and tricks. So
I'd love to consult.
Yeah. Would you?
See, always looking for, collaboration opportunities from one entrepreneur to the other. Right. That's just, yeah, I'd love to be able to help you out, because I think that's great for a variety of reasons, but we'll discuss it a little bit more once I
Okay.
stop recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once the app is out, like I'll promote it. Thank you so much for like doing all the
Yeah.
stuff. You're doing a lot of really cool stuff. I think this is going to be a really cool project for you. I mean, and thanks for coming on the show. I'm gonna hit stop
Yeah.
record real quick, and then
Okay.
we'll keep chatting for a sec. Is that cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. If you're listening, thank you for listening. Talk to you guys later.